The UFC is getting like the live performers to do the walkout music, so I'm hitting up Ennio Marconi. I'm a UFC fighter. Ennio Marconi is gonna be doing Ecstasy of Gold for me. All right, guys, welcome back to Best Coast Show. I'm your host, Albert Aguilera. As always, that's my producer, Curtis Stage. Curtis, UFC, the champs. What's on the lineup?
Yeah, we have every champ has, or almost every champ has an opponent through January, which is unprecedented. We've got Werdum versus Cain II rematch. Does that need to happen? Mighty Mouse versus Dodson. I'm excited about that. And then, of course,
Also a rematch?
Also a rematch. And we have to talk about the Brazilian fighter who fought while she was pregnant.
Okay, but in her defense, she didn't know she was pregnant, and as you said, this lineup that we have for the champs, that's unprecedented. I mean, I've been watching MMA. I've been a UFC fan since about, when was I a freshman in high school? Since like 2001-ish. And I've never seen this before. I've never seen it where every champ has an opponent lined up. I mean, TJ just fought a few weeks ago, so he's the exception to this. But yeah, I mean, between now and the January cards, like these champs are all booked, and it's great. Like I'm excited, and they've already announced UFC 200. That's going to be next July at the new arena that they're building next to the Monte Carlo, where I hope we get hockey there. But everything's lined up for that, and I think they're doing it as an insurance policy where you get all your champs to fight 7 months before UFC 200. Then you have a pool of people to pick from in the event that people start getting hurt and people don't have matchups.
Let's rewind back. So you started watching UFC when in what? We're going to be on 200 coming up here.
Right. Right now we're about to hit UFC 191.
What were you watching UFC on? Because
it's not like you. Okay, so in 2015 you could see UFC online. You could do the Fight Pass. You're watching it on network TV. You're watching it on Fox. People were watching it on Spike TV. You know, when I was in high school, that's when it was on Spike TV with The Ultimate Fighter. But it wasn't readily available. You couldn't see it everywhere. So you know, you get out of school and you're going into the Korean mom and pop video stores, and at the way back of the Korean store,
past
right?
the porn.
Past the porn, the curtains with the beads, past the anime section, right next to Faces of Death was UFC VHS tapes.
Wow.
And you know, you're there and you're kind of like, it's past the porn, right? So even though it's past the porn curtains, you couldn't rent from that area anyways, even though it wasn't adult related, because it was considered like 18 plus. So if you wanted someone to rent, whether it be Faces of Death or UFC or really just random shit that they had there, you needed your one friend that was over 18 to rent these UFC VHS tapes for you. And that's where we first got exposed to watching UFC.
Come a long way now.
Yeah, we've come a long way because you could watch it on network, because it's sanctioned now, because there's weight classes now, because these guys are not fighting organized 4 times in a night, and it's organized.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's where I started.
So this is the biggest organization we've seen with having all these cards going through January. What's the big... So Werdum versus Cain II. I mean, they just
fought.
They fought in Mexico City, though, so...
I mean, Cain came off a long layoff, and Cain's biggest advantage at fighting at 235, 240 pounds as the heavyweight is he has a tank of gas that never hits E.
Yeah.
It never hits 3/4. His one speed is go, and he overwhelms heavyweights. And
so he wasn't ready for this fight.
He wasn't ready. That's what people's argument is. For Werdum versus Cain II, they're going to say Werdum versus C-level Cain.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows about the Mexican national team that plays at Estadio Azteca. Yeah, they have a ridiculous record. They're like 102 because these teams come in and they play at 7,500 feet above sea level. They're not used to running around.
Exactly.
Go into an octagon for 25 minutes where another guy's trying to kill you. You're going to get worn out real quick if your body's not acclimated to the altitude.
So he didn't train in Mexico City. Did Werdum train in Mexico City?
Werdum was out in Mexico City for about 35 days, he said.
Oh.
Meanwhile, Cain was out stateside in Los Angeles doing pressers 10 days before the fight.
So
you're not going to get acclimated.
So this fight's going to be in Vegas.
This is going to be in Vegas. This is at, I don't want to say sea level because Las Vegas is not at sea level, but it's not 7,500 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
So his cardio is going to be a factor in a positive way in this Werdum rematch.
So this is why this rematch is a good rematch.
That's the only reason why. I mean, I'm not a fan of immediate rematches unless it's a Frankie Edgar type fight where you went 25 minutes and it could have gone in either direction.
Yeah.
I would say that's too close to call. Book the rematch. But with the way the heavyweight division is today, because the heavyweight division has sucked for years, it's always been very shallow. But right now, you have Arlovsky, Mir, Rothwell, Dos Santos, and Stipe are all legitimately one win away from getting a title shot. So now they've all been paired with each other, with the exception of Dos Santos, who, if If we get our way, we'll fight Overeem finally.
And this is kind of why UFC is more popular than boxing at this point, because there's more challengers.
There's more challengers, and
belt.
you have to fight. If you want a title shot, eventually you're going to have to fight that guy. Eventually you're going to have to fight that guy. And if you're the champion, the challengers are going to have to fight you.
Yeah.
None of this, well, my promoter doesn't think that's a good matchup for me. None of that garbage in the UFC.
Yeah.
But I'm not in favor of this immediate rematch, only because it was not close. This fight was not close. Werdum took him out, tapped him in the third round.
Yeah, third
in my
round,
opinion, Cain got lucky to even get that far because he looked gassed a minute into the second.
But that's the thing, is maybe it was
But
just that.
that's the argument.
So
Verdum versus Cain at sea level.
Yeah. So this will be a big draw, though. A
It'll
lot of
be-
people will
yeah,
watch
absolutely.
it.
Cain is a very big draw.
Yeah, there's fans, huge following for Cain. I'm excited to see Mighty Mouse because I'm a small guy, so I like the small fighters. I know it's not as big draw for everybody else.
Yeah, and that's what sucks. Unfortunately, go support Mighty Mouse, people. If you're fans of mixed martial arts, you have to support someone like him
because
because
he's 125,
yeah,
right?
he fights
He's
in the
flyweight
flyweight division. He fights at 125 pounds. At that division, there's two dudes in Octagon that are ninjas. These guys are small, so the knockouts aren't really there. But this division, they're very technically sound. These guys can strike, they can grapple, they can wrestle. Their jiu-jitsu's there. These guys are very, and he's considered to be one of the most technically sound fighters on the entire roster. He's defended the belt 6 times. He's going to fight Dodson again in a rematch. And Dodson's been talking a lot of smack because Demetrious Johnson, he's not Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
He's not boisterous. He doesn't go out there and talk smack.
He just goes and does his thing.
And Dodson is trying to be like, listen, when I'm the champion and I beat you, I'm going to bring attention to this division. And Demetrious is more of a humble guy. Mighty Mouse doesn't run his mouth. Yeah. But he is arguably the best talented overall fighter on this roster. But because he fights at 125 pounds, people don't respect the division.
That's September 5th. What's the who's on that 191 with that?
Oh, that 191 card. That card, I mean, and again, because he doesn't draw so well, they tend to stack fighters on his card. And on that card, it is Arlovsky and Frank Mir, where these are two heavyweights that they kind of drank out of the fountain of youth. They're both on, I mean, it's 2015. Frank Mir and Arlovsky were UFC champs, heavyweight champs 10 years ago. You don't see that. So for you to be like, hey, these guys are potentially in a title elimination match in 2015, that is bizarre.
That's pretty bizarre.
That's a resurgence to the heavyweight division. On that card, the same thing with Anthony Johnson. Did Anthony Johnson get back on a winning streak? He can come back at light heavyweight. Card. So it's a good card. And Paige Van Zandt is on this card. The Paige Van Zandt is their new is what they want to do post Ronda Rousey. They want to build her into that position where she's young, she's cute, she can fight. Me personally, I see her fight. She's not the most technically sound fighter. She's really young. She's 21. At the time of the Tough House, she couldn't go in because she wasn't old enough. But you watch her fight, and her fights are very sloppy. But what she does is she overwhelms her opponents because she doesn't stop. She's an Energizer Bunny. She goes in there, and she's the woman of 1,000 fists. Yeah. She does not stop.
That's cool.
So she overwhelms her opponents and gets the victory.
So what about, I mean, Aldo and McGregor were supposed to be at Dallas Stadium. I mean, we've been trying
to get I was supposed to be at Dallas Stadium. Ever since the stadium was built.
It'd be huge.
It would be huge. It would be massive. McGregor has always been saying, let's do a
Could they
football
sell out
stadium.
Dallas Stadium? Could they sell out that place?
It seats 110,000. With standing room, it's 110,000.
Yeah.
The proposed card that the UFC wanted to put there, maybe. I mean, the largest card they've ever had was in Toronto, and it was, I believe, 55,000. It was George St. Pierre.
Double that.
It's double that. Could they fill that to capacity? How rabid the Irish and Brazilian fans are, I could see them getting close to that. What they wanted to do is, ever since the stadium was built, they've always wanted to put a show on there, but they just haven't been able to due to scheduling conflicts. And UFC 194, it's Jose Aldo versus McGregor. It's Weidman versus Rockhold as the co-main. So it's going to be a very big card. It's going to be at the MGM Grand. It was supposed to be December 5th, but the MGM Grand booked Andrea Bocelli.
Yeah. He's a big draw.
He's a huge draw.
Can he fight?
No, you know what? I don't know. I don't know if Bocelli can fight. I mean, I know he's a huge draw, not for the UFC fan base, but I mean,
if they could cross,
what they should have done instead of pushing the UFC 194 back to the 12th of December, what they should have done is, now that they're doing these live events, they should have had Bocelli come in on the 5th with McGregor, and because both McGregor and Aldo are coming in as champions, you could have him singing "Time to Say Goodbye" because only one's going to leave with the belt.
Nice.
That's what I would have done. But that's just me. You could have sold to 2 audiences there.
That would have been great.
I mean, that would have been a win-win.
So then the last thing we want to talk about just quickly is Kimberly Novaes,
Yes.
she's the Brazilian fighter.
I didn't know I was pregnant.
How does that occur? She wins the title. She
won a title, yeah, in the women's strawweight division in this Brazilian promotion. But, I mean...
She's 12 weeks
But
pregnant.
that goes to show you that the commissions in Brazil suck. If they drug tested her, they would have seen that she was pregnant. Now, this woman wins the title fight. She goes and she signs with RFA, and 12 weeks later, what she's doing is, I can't cut weight for some reason. I don't feel all that great during my workouts. All right, fine, I'll go to the doctor. The doctor says, "Ma'am, you're 6 months pregnant." So that leads us to the gift of the day. Our gift of the day is the fearless leader, Kim Jong-un, who is applauding the efforts of this lady becoming the strawweight champion, because I'm sure her son, who's in her stomach now, is sparring.
He's already
and
sparring.
He's going to be a UFC fighter, UFC 325. But guys, that's our show. Support Demetrious Johnson, please. And stalk us on the Twitter @BestCoastShow. All right, you guys have a good night.